In November 1966, Innes Lloyd and Jerry Davis, the incumbent producer and story editor of Doctor Who, found themselves not entirely happy with the balance between the lead character and his companions. The recently regenerated Second Doctor, played by Patrick Troughton, was settling in well to the role, and his relationship with Hartnell legacy companions Ben and Polly was similarly secure. However, there was something about the dynamic that the production team felt was missing. Perhaps it was the fact that the new, more passive and eccentric incarnation had lost some of the paternal authority that his predecessor had enjoyed over his grown-up and rational companions. They felt that there was a gap in the cast for a younger companion, one who was less au fait with the malevolent machinations of monsters across time and space. After the writer commissioned to pen the new Doctor's second serial, The Highlanders, had to drop out due to work commitments, Davis stepped in and the production duo found a possible solution. A minor character in that story named Jamie McCrimmon might just fit the bill. Young but brave, uneducated but resourceful, and out of time in a way the swinging 60s Ben and Polly never could be. The producer was cautious, however. The TARDIS had not been crowded with 3 companions since Ian and Barbara had departed in early 1965, and there were concerns over how the balance might be upset, especially for the other writers already commissioned to produce scripts with just Ben and Polly. Still, Lloyd and Davis felt that a younger, less cerebral companion was just what was needed to further cement the fledgling Second Doctor as the lead hero with all the answers.
Merely a metal roof, radiating some kind of light.
The role of the companion in Doctor Who has always been guided by their central function as the audience identification figure, the one to ask the questions and get the explanations the primarily young audience need to understand the scientific and historical subject matter the stories explore.
Is it more elephants coming?
An earthquake building up?
No, it's too regular for that, no. It's more of a mechanical vibration. Yes.
Look,
Yes, darling.
In what circumstances do you get all these things together? I mean, animals and vegetable life from different continents.
with a metal roof and all this shaking.
There's only one thing that strikes me. This could be some kind of indoor nature park.
As such, up to this point, most long-term companions had come from the present day, with Peter Purvis's Stephen Taylor and Maureen O'Brien's Vicky the only exceptions. Even Stephen and Vicky, however, despite being respectively a spaceship pilot and a shipwrecked orphan from our future, were hardly ever seen to draw on any knowledge someone of the 1960s would not be aware of. In fact, I'm not sure if most of the writers following Stephen's introduction were really aware of his origins, so little does it factor into any of his stories. To have a companion from history, however, and a credulous and uneducated one at that, was a gamble, as it might alienate viewers. As such, the decision was taken to include an option in the contract prepared for the young actor cast as Jamie for a further 3 serials. The producer was to cautiously wait though, and see how the characters and actors related during production before making a final commitment. Little did Lloyd and Davis suspect that this last-minute improvisation would produce one of the longest-serving companions and result in one of the most successful and beloved relationships between the Doctor and his friends. Innes Lloyd took head of serials Sean Sutton's recommendation of 22-year-old Frazer Hines for the role of James Robert McCrimmon, Sutton having directed Hines in The Silver Sword, an 8-part television adaptation of Ian Serralier's classic children's novel. Born in Yorkshire in 1944, Hines had established a career in television and films by the age of 10 whilst attending the Corona Theatre School in London. He even appeared alongside Charlie Chaplin in the legendary comic actor's last leading role in A King of New York.
And here is our bakery.
Sir.
Oh, yes. Excuse me, Your Majesty.
La 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 la.
And this young man specializes in Viennese pastries. This is some of our little friend's handicraft. Oh, and these are exactly the same as the ones he's been making just now. Would you like to taste one? Oh, no, thank you.
His appearances as main characters in various television series and serials solidified his career on the small screen, which is how he came to be cast in 1964's Smuggler's Bay alongside his future co-star Patrick Troughton and directed by Christopher Barry, who would go on to be Doctor Who's most prolific director of the classic era.
Pocket.
83.
Action!
With the option of retaining Jamie as a companion not fully decided upon, Lloyd waited to see how the young actor took to the cast and crew during location filming for the Highlanders, undertaken in late November of 1966, with Frensham Ponds in Surrey standing in for the battlefield of Culloden Moor. Fortunately, Hines fitted in nicely with the already relaxed and friendly dynamic between the three leads, with Troughton particularly pleased to be working with the young actor again. Exactly when the decision to proceed with adding him to the TARDIS crew was taken is unclear, but it is most likely ahead of the final day of location filming on the 21st of November, as this day was added to the schedule in order to film an alternative ending to the original script where Jamie departed with the time travellers.
Come on, we must go.
What about Jamie? We can't leave him here.
True, his ship sailed.
What will you do?
Oh, I'll be all right. They won't catch me. Do you hear that? They'll catch us all if we don't move fast.
Doctor, can we take him with us?
If he teaches me to play the bagpipes.
If you want, Doctor.
Oh, that's all we need.
Come on, Jamie.
But where are we going?
You'll see.
The Doctor and Ben hurry along the track up the hill, with Polly and Jamie trailing behind. Soon they reach the hollow where the TARDIS landed. Jamie watches in amazement as the Doctor unlocks the strange blue box and disappears inside, followed closely by Ben. Suddenly fearful, Jamie stops in his tracks, no longer sure he wants to go with his strange new friends. Gently, Polly takes his hand and smiles reassuringly. Unresisting, Jamie allows himself to be pulled into the TARDIS without the slightest idea of what lies in store for him.
A character outline was duly written and added to the writer's notes issued on the 28th of November. Unlike that of many of the companions of that era, it is an outline which is mostly adhered to over his subsequent appearances. Perhaps this is because Jamie was envisioned as a heroic and active member of the TARDIS crew, as opposed to a damsel in distress needing rescue like many of his female counterparts. As Jamie was added quite late in the day, his first few outings in the TARDIS are not particularly notable for establishing his role in proceedings. The for the most part already written scripts quickly altered to include the young Scot, with many of the lines originally meant for Ben given to him. In the case of his third story, Cyberman sequel The Moonbase, a solution was found by rendering him unconscious for much of the story. However, in a sign of how effective Jamie would go on to be, not only as a companion, but as a conduit of superstition that added atmosphere to his stories, one of the most memorable things about this story is his delirious ravings, mistaking the silver giant lurking in the base as
The Phantom Paper! No!
one of his early scenes in his second adventure, The Underwater Menace, is significant, however, for establishing Jamie's excitement and enthusiasm for their travels in space and time, clearly drawing on the concept of him as a swashbuckling adventurer.
You sound very happy, Jamie?
Oh, hi, Doctor, I am now. You know, I never thought I'd say this, but, well, it's great.
What is?
Well, all this. Well, I'll never know what makes it go, mind you, but, well, at least I feel safe in here. It's only the wee things outside that are, well, alarming.
He's got a point there. Yeah, you can say that again.
It is with the faceless ones where he is really afforded the opportunity to flex his muscles a bit more. Despite being Ben and Polly's farewell story, they are pretty much written out as soon as location filming at Gatwick Airport was completed, allowing Jamie and companion that never was, Sam Briggs, to take centre stage alongside Troughton for much of the adventure.
That lot of good that inspector's going to be.
Ah, but he believes us.
Oh, yeah, but that doesn't mean to say he's going to do anything. I think I'll go and have a look round that chameleon hangar.
Not by yourself.
Well, I suppose it would be better if I had a man with me.
Aye. Oh, if only the doctor hadn't told me to watch this place.
Oh, do you always do everything you're told?
No. The doctor trusts me.
Yeah, that's your trouble, isn't it? All right, stay here. After all, they can only murder me. Ta-da!
Oh, wait a minute. I don't suppose anything will happen here, do
Well,
you?
since they've closed the kiosk, it's hardly likely.
And we won't be long away, will we?
Well, that depends on what we find. Ah, come on, kid.
In any case, you'll need me to show you the way there.
This is the first story that arguably truly establishes the relationship that the lead and his companion would go on to enjoy over the next few years, their individual character traits complementing each other like jigsaw pieces finally slotting together. The Doctor, with his insight and wisdom, and Jamie, with his brawn, determination and unquestioning loyalty to the strange little man who whisked him away from a life of Highland moors and redcoats.
Oh, what about this, Doctor? This wasn't here before. It's a burn mark.
You're right, Jamie. That's quite new. Well, it's good to see someone is using their intelligence.
By this time, Hines and Troughton had developed a strong friendship that manifested itself on screen in the fantastic comic chemistry between the two leads.
Now, look here, sir, this joke's gone far enough. You know and I know that you must have arrived here on the last inbound flight, which was flight number 729 from Madrid.
About TARDIS. Oh,
What's that?
it's the way we got here.
You gentlemen wouldn't know anything about a police box, would you?
It's just what I'm saying.
I really think that our mode of conveyance is irrelevant. The important thing is that we've discovered a dead body out there, and we want to report it to someone in authority.
Between scenes, they delighted in playing practical jokes on their co-stars, whilst in front of the cameras they established a wonderfully warm and affectionate relationship.
You all right?
Yes, I'm all right.
What were you up to? Boss, it was easy. An unintelligent enemy is far less dangerous than an intelligent one, Jamie. Eh?
Just act stupid. Do you think you can manage that?
All right, see.
With the second Doctor's shabby eccentricity, the relationship between him and Jamie, unlike that of his predecessors with Stephen or Ian, is less fatherly and authoritarian, and more that of the silly uncle and nephew, with a sense of mutual respect and support.
Hello. What can you see?
Like any close friends, they argue and bicker from time to time, and there's plenty of good-natured ribbing and mockery, but there is always an unspoken love and reliance between them that is evidently drawn from real life.
Hey, Doctor, if you really want to capture one of these beasties, I think I have an idea that might just work.
Victoria?
Eh?
Victoria, I think this is one of those instances where discretion is the better part of valor. Jamie has an idea. Come along.
Whereas some Doctors have developed into greatness as they progress and meet new companions, allowing them the opportunity to reinforce their enigmatic personas, the second Doctor and Jamie are pretty much inseparable, a true double act that arguably has never been successfully repeated. Truly, lightning in a bottle.
Doctor, come on, Willie, the whole place is going to blow up.
Oh, it's quite all right, Jamie. The planet is quite safe. There's just going to be a localized volcanic eruption. It'll only affect the island.
Maybe so, but we happen to be on the island.
Oh, my word!
The strength of Troughton and Hines' performances ensure that neither upstages the other, however. It's always clear who the central hero is, but this very strength of Troughton's execution affords the character of Jamie a bit more to do than perhaps would otherwise be afforded a companion. With the traditional role, that of the damsel in distress requiring rescue, being usurped somewhat by this more physically capable and active companion, Jamie becomes the lead in several subsequent episodes, not least The Evil of the Daleks, where he at one point takes centre stage, tackling the Daleks' test to rescue Victoria Waterfield, thereby providing them with a perfect example of the human factor. Jamie is therefore explicitly a personification of what makes us, his heroism and humanity acting as the catalyst for the eventual cataclysmic civil war that ravages Skaro. Despite the relative youth of the second Doctor in contrast to that of his first incarnation, Jamie, like Ian and Stephen before him, takes on much of the physical action of the stories in which he appears. It is he who faces down an attacking Yeti, burying the robotic monster beneath a rockfall in a Tibetan cave, and rescuing Victoria and himself in the process.
What are you doing?
We've got to stop that thing somehow.
You'll bury us alive!
Only chance to get back!
Another example of his tenacity and bravery is his attacking of a Croton after being subjected to their torturous mind probe.
Stop! And I will see if you die or not.
Stop! Stop!
Whilst it's true that Jamie's ignorance owing to his historical origin seems to fluctuate according to the needs of the story, it is his charm and stoic commitment to moral absolutes that make him a valuable addition to the TARDIS crew, allowing him to play an active role in their adventures. He has, as author Diana Gabaldon has since noted, a pig-headed male gallantry, a strong urge on the part of a man to protect a woman even though he may realise that she's plainly capable of looking after herself. This is particularly apparent in his later adventures with new companion Zoe Herriot, where her martial arts skills and logical brain delineate her as one of the first female TARDIS crew members more than capable of taking on the dangers of the universe. Despite this, his old-world gallantry is still on display, the Highlander still feeling it is his duty to put himself before her in his obligation to face down the enemies they encounter. It is on this very classical, if old-fashioned persona that Gabaldon was later inspired to base the lead character of her own epic time-travelling fiction, Outlander, that of Jamie Frazer. Apparently the surname is pure serendipity.
I see. I'm supposed to provide the face, am I?
A good measure of the strength of the character can be seen in the imaginative solution to the unfortunate result of Hines contracting chickenpox during filming of The Mind Robber. The surreal adventure taking place in the parallel dimension of the land of fiction allows this potentially catastrophic eventuality to be accommodated by having the Doctor have to reassemble his companion's face as a puzzle, only to choose incorrectly, thereby allowing Jamie to be played by a fellow actor, Hamish Wilson, whilst Hines was off work.
Doctor! Oh, I'm glad to see you again. But you're not Jamie, eh? What are you on about? Well, your face, it's different.
What do you mean, different?
Well, look in the mirror. That's not my face. Oh, well, it's the one you're stuck with for the moment.
Being a friend of Hines, Wilson ably realises Jamie on screen, and the switch-up doesn't distract from the story. He is still recognisably Jamie.
What's happening?
It's still a relief when Hines returns later in the story, though. It was originally intended for Jamie to enjoy a suitably rewarding final adventure in the subsequently unproduced The Laird of McCrimmon in Season 6. This would have pitted the Doctor and his friends against the Great Intelligence and its robotic Yeti for a third time, and take place within Castle McCrimmon, the young Piper's ancestral home. It's a real shame that this story never came to be, not least for the chance of seeing the Yeti once again after their superlative earlier appearances. The story would have seen Jamie possessed by the Great Intelligence, which would have provided Frazer Hines with an opportunity to further flex his acting muscles, akin to Troughton's earlier portrayal of evil, dictatorial Doctor doppelganger Salamander in the previous year's The Enemy of the World. The Laird of McCrimmon would have seen Jamie leave the TARDIS to take up his role as the new Laird, a fitting destiny for the young man who learned so much of the universe at the side of the cosmic hobo. Alas, it was not to be. But change was in the air in 1969, with Troughton feeling the need to move on from the role, and big alterations planned for a reinvention of the show when it switched to colour as the new decade dawned. Hines has given conflicting accounts of his decision to leave the programme, at times claiming he was fatigued by the gruelling schedule, at others stating he would have stayed longer given the chance. Perhaps it was a little bit of embarrassment for having released in 1968 an instalment in the pantheon of awful Doctor Who-related novelty singles that have failed to grace the charts over the years. I'm joking, of course.
Where is he from? What does he do?
Whatever the real reason, it was decided between the three leads to depart together at the end of Season 6.
There is no escape, Doctor. Return the TARDIS immediately to our home planet.
The introduction of the Time Lords in the Troughton finale, The War Games, offered an unusual and rather tragic solution for Jamie and Zoe's departure.
Follow me.
Where are we going?
We're going to send you home. Back to your own world and your own time.
Rather than have them suddenly find love and plan marriage, a la Susan and Vicky, or suffer upsetting deaths like Katarina or Sarah, the power the Time Lords exert allows them to be returned to their own times and places, albeit with the memory of their travels with the Doctor erased beyond their debut stories. It's a bittersweet ending to one of the most successful TARDIS teams. On the one hand, we have the reassurance that Jamie lives to fight another day, back on Culloden battling redcoats, but all that experience, all that wonder and enlightenment is taken from him, with only the Doctor's memories of their time together intact.
There is no escape, Doctor. It's time to say goodbye to your friends.
There must be something we can do.
No, Zoe. Not this time. Well, goodbye, Jamie.
But Doctor, surely we could...
Goodbye, Jamie.
I won't forget you, you know.
It's a very touching moment when the Doctor has to definitively state to Jamie that their time together is at an end. A stoic handshake, an assurance that neither will forget the other, searingly poignant when we learn that Jamie shall indeed forget.
They'll forget me, won't they?
Not entirely. They'll be returned to a moment in time just before they went away with you. They will remember their first adventure with you, but nothing more.
As one concession to the Doctor's deep connection to his friends, the Time Lords afford him a glimpse of their returned lives, where we see a final fleeting glimpse of the young Highlander brandishing his sword and yelling the immortal battle cry. But although Jamie's adventures with the Doctor were chronologically over, this is a show about time travel, so no one's ever really gone. Unfortunately, filming commitments elsewhere meant that Frazer Hines was not able to appear in the 10th anniversary special The Three Doctors, nor could he appear for more than a fleeting scene in the subsequent 20th anniversary story The Five Doctors.
Stay away!
Why? I can't harm you.
They're one step nearer and we're dead!
You can't kill illusions.
The Brigadier!
You're not real. When you were returned to your own people, the Time Lords erased your memory of the period you spent with me. So how do you know who we are? Answer!
They've gone.
Yes, it's sad.
Can't be more than a minute ahead of us. This way, I think.
How do you know?
But the fates aligned in 1985 for the two Doctors, with both Hines and Troughton teaming up with current TARDIS crew Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant for a globe-trotting adventure that took in the sights of boiling hot Seville.
I still don't understand it.
What?
Well, that you and the Doctor, well, my Doctor, are the same person.
Of course we're the same, but different.
As I've mentioned elsewhere, it has its moments, but is overall a bit of a dud. However, the inclusion of Jamie is arguably the best thing about it.
You know better for your change of clothes and bath. Should try it more often.
Thank you. What?
As he is rescued by the Sixth Doctor and Perry, and returned to his Gaelic glory with help of the TARDIS wardrobe, the chemistry between the three really illustrates the potential of having two companions with that more antagonistic and pompous incarnation of the central hero.
Well, you ready?
For what?
Transference.
Now, my Doctor wouldn't have done that.
Your Doctor is an antediluvian fogey, allowing himself to be captured by the Sontarans. If anything happens to myself as a result of it, I will never forgive himself.
Oh, I do wish you'd stop switching personal pronouns. It'd make it a lot easier to understand what you're talking about.
Hines effortlessly slips back into the role he had left a decade and a half previous, and his presence brings a humour and humanity that was arguably sorely lacking during this period.
Anita, goodbye.
Good luck.
It was this relationship that Big Finish was later inspired to re-examine, with the Sixth Doctor teaming up once more with Jamie as an older man, albeit with no knowledge of the mysterious stranger who travels in time and space. There's a bit of a twist to this one though, so I'll say no more, other than to suggest that you seek it out. Always proud of his association with the show, Hines has continued to be involved with Doctor Who, regularly appearing on the convention circuit and documentaries produced for the DVD range. His vocal talents have helped produce some fantastic audio ventures for Big Finish, with his uncanny impression of Patrick Troughton particularly instrumental in elevating the various releases beyond the normal audiobook one might expect.
The Doctor said it was the Earth. We were home after our journeys. My friends, I think you'll find this place familiar. She's found her way back to England. Finally. Now then, let's see. Preparing to materialise. Oh dear!
What's that?
Oh, my word, it's the proximity alarm. Hold tight, everyone. Henry got hit by something called a train.
Like all the best Doctor Who companions, Jamie is not only an audience identification figure despite his historical origins, but an aspirational one too. His relationship with the Doctor and the bravery and moral certitude he exudes is eternally comforting and enviable. The tragedy of his forced amnesia is tempered, however, by the fact that as he storms off into the Scotch mist, we know that Jamie's adventures are far from over.